Hey guys, thanks for clicking on this one. We're going to cover another tip here. This is a big one. I'm going to keep it short, of course. When to use mono, when to use braid. This is also a question I will ask a lot of people. I see you have braid on your reels there. Why do you have braid? And the universal answer these days is, I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that. I just assume mono was obsolete. And I'll get questions like, hey Mike, I'm having problems fishing with live bait, with chunks. The fish pick it up, but they keep dropping it. I can't set the hook on these fish. What am I doing wrong? And without even knowing, I'll respond to them, take braid off and put mono on. And they'll respond back, how'd you know I used braid? I said, because that's a very common problem. Fish dropping the bait, it's because you have braid and you don't need braid. Braid is great for a lot of things. I have braid on my bait casters. Rule of thumb, put braid on every rod that you're gonna hold in your hand when the fish strikes. When the fish hits and you're holding, say you're casting, you're working a jig, you're working a plug, topwater, anything, crankbaits. The rod is in your hand when the fish strikes. Braid is great. Zero stretch, very strong, no stretch, so you can really feel those fish. Very sensitive, you can feel the fish pick up the bait. If you have a live bait on here, you can feel when a fish swims by your live bait because the rod will vibrate. The live bait will actually get nervous. So braid is fantastic for that as long as the rod is in your hand. Now, it's bad news when you stick the rod in a rod holder with braid. Why is that? Because all the good things that we just spoke about, all the good sensitivity and feelings that transfer to my hand, work both ways. It goes to the fish as well. My hand can feel the fish because of the braid, but the fish can now feel back. So I can feel that fish pick up the bait, and that fish can also feel my rod tip. It's great when it's in my hand. I can feed the fish, I can do what I want, I can crank down, set the hook, I can go slack, I can do whatever I want. I manipulate everything because it's in my hand. But when I stick it in a rigid rod holder, now the fish picks it up. This rod is not going to do any of those things that's sitting in a rod holder. It's not going to feed the fish, it's not going to drop the rod tip, go slack. It's going to sit in a rigid rod holder. The bait is picked up by the fish goes to turn, and now all of a sudden it feels the rod tip because that braid is so unforgiving. It now can't turn the bait, it can't vacuum feed. Striped bass, largemouth bass, fish with really big heads, really big gills, they vacuum feed. You know, when they suck up those baits, they'll swim up to it and they'll suck it to them. If you have no stretch in your braid, they'll suck and the thing won't even come to them sometimes. So it really interferes with their feeding. Like I said, great in the hand, horrible in a rod holder. So the fish will pick it up, feel the rigid rod holder, no stretch, something's wrong, they spit the bait, they drop the bait. So, you're gonna put your rod in your rod holder. All my rods for baits, live baits, chunk, if it goes in the rod holder, you have mono. Mono stretches like crazy. Even just this little 10 inches here will stretch about 1/4 inch. That stretch is super, super, super forgiving. It's great when you put a rod in a rod holder, and if you couple it with a nice soft tip like the Striper Stealth rods, you will catch tons and tons of fish with this setup here because the fish can pick up the bait, it can vacuum feed, it can swim around, it can turn the bait, swallow it, feel comfortable with it, swim off, and by the time the fish feels anything at all, the stretch has been swum out, the rod tip has been swum down to the backbone, and by the time it puts the gas on and tries to take off, it's too late. Everything is straightened out, everything is under tension. It pulls that nice circle hook up, gets them right in the jaw, they scream off, it sinks the hook further, and your money. So remember, if the rod is in your hand when the fish strikes, you want braid. If the rod is in your rod holder, and when the fish strikes, you want mono. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule. Sometimes you need line capacity on a small reel, so you might need to put braid on there. Spinning rods cast better with braid, so you might want braid in those situations, but overall, follow this rule right here and you'll be good to go. Braid if you're casting and holding the rod at strike. Mono if you're sitting the rod in the rod holder, waiting for the fish to strike with the rod in the rod holder. Thanks for watching, guys. Please stay safe on the water. Leave a few from me. Love you. Mean it. That's it. Just trying to stay simple and quick.